What are some of the arguments that people give, that companies give against hiring a coach? If you were to pose a question to a whole slew of companies, what possible arguments they would give you? Let's just run through the list of arguments without negating or commenting on them, and then we'll try to tackle them one at a time. So what do they say? Hey, I can do it myself. I don't need to have somebody else coming in from outside to tell me what I need to do. I can do it myself. I've been doing it for a while. I've got the experience and I can keep doing it myself. Thank you very much. I don't need to have a coach. Or they'll say, hey, there are free courses available online. Why do I need to invest in someone? Whatever questions I might have, I'll go find a course. I'll spend maybe a couple of $100 and I can find you free stuff on YouTube. Why do I need to hire someone, pay someone when I've got access to all the resources I would need? I can go to a bookstore and buy some books that I would need. That'll help me. Or my banker or my CPA can advise me. Whatever questions I might have, the questions are related to financing, my banker can advise me. I have a loan broker. If there's a question about raising capital, about raising funds, my loan agent could advise me. I have a vendor liaison. That person could help me improve my contract with the vendors. Whoever I need to advise me in my analysis, in running of my day-to-day operations of my company, I've got people who can advise me. So why don't I just trust on them? Why don't I just rely upon their expertise? Why do you need to bring in somebody else? The coaches are too expensive. We just don't have the money. We are barely functioning. We are just beginning to improve things perhaps just a little bit, but we don't have money to throw at the problem that we don't even have. So coaches are just not worth how much they might potentially charge. Or they might say that my business is a very unique business. There's no other business similar to mine. So no matter what they might have done, no matter how much of success they might have had in their career, when they come on board with us, they'll really have to learn everything afresh. And I don't have the time or stamina to bring them up to speed or to train them. Plus, my business is so unique that they will never be able to understand. So why even invest our time and energy into an area where we don't ultimately see success? Or they might also say that my employees are highly trained. I pay them well. So they are trained, they know exactly how to execute the job, they know exactly what they need to do. So I rely upon them to carry the torch forward and to make things happen. I don't need to have a coach to come and tell them the same thing. I can do it myself. So yes, so for these reasons, I don't need to have a coach. Or they might say this, that we are doing everything that we are supposed to do, that we're required to do. There's nothing more that can be done. So this is sort of a resignation of the fact that whether the company is thriving or they are not, whatever could be done is already being done, and that there's nothing that somebody else could come in from the outside and help us do. So these are some of the objections, as we said earlier, of what someone might put forward to say why they don't need to have a business coach. Let's now tackle the same questions, and this time we'll try to give you answers. I can do it myself. Yes, of course you can do it by yourself. But how much time do you have? How many areas can you function on at any given point in time? If you are able to multitask, can you do 15 things at the same time? When you're dealing with your employee issues, for example, and your product is failing and the quality issues and the supplier is calling you to get your attention on the raw material availability limitation that they're facing, while you've got a physical store governance issue that you're dealing with and the city is about to revoke their permit. Can you be doing all of this at the same time? You clearly cannot, and that's why you've got employees. But as a business owner, you're ultimately the one where the buck stops. You're responsible for all of this. You cannot do it all by yourself. You cannot be focusing on every aspect of your business all at the same time. So this is clearly coming from our extensive experience in this field, that you got to have partners. You got to have others who are equally invested in your success, and those people are the ones who will advise you, or who can even take away some of the work that you have to do. Yes, there are free courses available online. We all have access to those courses. But oftentimes, it's not even the 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 answer that you are seeking, but to know what questions to ask. Oftentimes, that's what brings people down, brings businesses down. That absolute uh, lack of knowledge of what potentially could be around the corner and what could derail them. That's where this external guidance comes in. That yes, if you have a specific question, if you have a question, for example, on how to compare the different loan options, yes, there are calculators available out there and they would help you do that. But none of the calculators would tell you which loan program is the most optimum for you. Who would you rely upon? Your loan broker, the person or the entity who has a vested interest? And that brings us to the next point. Every resource that you pointed out earlier that you have access to, whether it's your lawyer or your banker or your CPA or your vendor liaison manager, every one of them has got a vested interest, not in your ultimate success, but in whatever you are buying from them, whatever services you are getting from them. They have got the ultimate interest to follow to manage their own bottom line, and they benefit when you buy something from them. So even though your insurance agent might be selling you a product that may not be in your best ultimate choice, but they might be offering it to you, and yet you cannot rely upon their objective feedback to let you know if it's the right product for you or not. Coaches are too expensive. Coaches are too expensive. What's the cost of failure? Imagine how much you have invested in the business that you're running. Imagine not just your financial cost, the down payment and the operational cost and the lease that you began, the tenant improvement and all of the tangible and hard costs. What about the soft costs? What about the cost of your time? What about the resources that you have put mental resources, physical resources into the business already? Everyone else who's been attached to the business, how much have they invested in the business? This is what's all at stake if you don't have the right guidance that can carry you through the day. Coaches, yes, they might be expensive depending upon is the whole range of different offerings, but the cost of failure is much higher. We really must remind you of that. My business is unique. Clearly, every business is unique. So when the coaches come in, they're not necessarily tackling every unique aspect of your business as much as they're trying to educate you on how to develop the right strategy, how to develop the right mindset, how to develop the right vision, the right methodology to approach whatever your business must be doing. That's really what they're ultimately after, not in become an expert in the unique way how your product writes an API that pulls the data from a different source, for example. This is not why they're here. They're only here to find out the uniqueness about your product and about your offering, and how do you make that as your selling point. Your employees are highly trained. But just as we said earlier about the people having the vested interest, your employees do not have a vested interest in your organization. They are looking there. They are there to develop some skill. They are there for the paycheck. But ultimately, the buck stops at someone who's financially liable for what the company does. And finally, this notion, this sort of resignation of sorts, that there's nothing more that can be done. This clearly is not for an insider to make this determination. This can only be made by someone who comes in from the outside, who examines a detailed examination of your operations, and that person can come up with a whole range of things and possibilities and options that you might be looking at. So when you say that there's nothing more that can be done, that's often an incorrect image, just because you don't have the big picture view that somebody else from the outside can do. So in the next few slides, we'll talk about what specific experiences that coaches would bring to you, would bring to the table, and how those experiences would benefit you. So let's continue.